I was still holding the casserole dish when my father told me not to come home again. It was warm butternut squash casserole, the kind Mom always swore was the secret crown jewel of our Thanksgiving table. Sweet squash roasted down, mashed with cream, folded with nutmeg and a whisper of maple syrup, then topped with breadcrumbs and brown butter. Mom used to joke it was dessert masquerading as a side dish. I'd spent hours the night before making it from scratch, using the recipe card she'd written when I was a teenager. I drove 3 hours through fog and sleet with it wrapped in foil, careful as if I were carrying treasure. Thanksgiving was supposed to be tradition, ritual, home. Or at least, I thought it was. The turkey hadn't been carved. The gravy boat was steaming. The stuffing sat in Mom's crystal dish, the one she only ever took out this one day a year. The table looked like a Norman Rockwell painting come to life. And I was still standing there in the doorway, casserole balanced in my arms, when Dad's voice cut through everything. "Return the $70,000, Caroline. Or don't bother coming home again." At first, I thought he was joking. My father wasn't the type to play pranks, especially not at Thanksgiving. But the silence told me otherwise. Hannah, my younger sister, sat across the table with her hands clasped so tightly in her lap it looked like she was trying to keep herself from flying apart. Mark, my brother, stared down at the tablecloth, tracing the pattern with his eyes like a man studying evidence at a crime scene. And Mom, sweet, gentle Mom, she didn't look at me at all. She pressed her napkin to her mouth as if she might be sick. I tried to laugh. "I'm sorry, what?" Dad's jaw tightened. "Don't make this harder than it has to be." I shifted the casserole dish, my arms beginning to ache. "What are you accusing me of?" It was Hannah who spoke, her mascara already smudged. "Mom's account. $50,000 disappeared last month. Right after you helped her set up online banking." The room tilted sideways. "You think I took Mom's money?" Mark finally spoke, his voice tight. "The bank confirmed it was online. No one else had access. Just you." I looked to Mom, hoping for some kind of lifeline. She didn't nod. She didn't shake her head. She just sat there with her napkin over her mouth, silent. That silence broke me more than the accusation. My arms went weak. I carried the casserole to the counter and set it down gently, like it might shatter the moment I let go. I grabbed my coat. "You have until the end of the week," Dad said quietly behind me. "Then we go to the lawyer." No one else said a word. I left the house that smelled like rosemary and sage, my seat at the table already erased. The drive out of town was silent. Porch lights glowed on tidy streets. Paper turkeys decorated windows. Every house radiated warmth, laughter, safety. Except mine. I pulled into the roadside and I'd passed 100 times, but never had reason to stop at. The clerk handed me a key without asking why I needed a room on Thanksgiving night. I was grateful for that small mercy. The room smelled like musty carpet and cheap detergent. I dropped onto the bed, my hands trembling. I was 35 years old. A senior forensic accountant. Trusted with millions in corporate audits. And my own family thought I'd stolen from my mother. My phone buzzed. A text from Hannah. "We didn't want it to come to this. But you made it hard to trust you." Not a single "Happy Thanksgiving." Not a "Are you okay?" Just condemnation. I sat there staring at the wall. At work, I spent my days unmasking fraudsters. Untangling webs of fake invoices, shell companies, and ghost accounts. I knew better than anyone that money doesn't just disappear. It moves. It leaves trails. And now, apparently, I was the suspect. But if they wanted me to play detective, then fine. I would. I'd investigate my own family. I woke before dawn. No alarm, just instinct. The motel coffee was bitter enough to peel paint, but it cleared my head as I flipped open my laptop. I sent a message to Theo, our firm's compliance officer. All I gave him was Mom's name, bank, and the dates. I told myself I wasn't crossing ethical lines. I wasn't asking for confidential case details, just confirmation. An hour later, he sent everything. Transaction records, teller logs, even security footage. 3 withdrawals. $20,000. $30,000. $20,000. Each in person. Not online. I froze. That alone cleared me. But the footage made my stomach drop. October 10th. A young woman in an oversized hoodie and sunglasses. She pulled her mask down to speak to the teller. Hannah. October 15th. Mark this time. No disguise. Calm, smiling, signing papers like he owned the place. October 20th. Hannah again. Same hoodie, different sunglasses. I sat back, ball rising in my throat. This wasn't sloppy or panicked. This was planned. They'd waited for me to help Mom set up digital banking, then used that as cover to frame me. They weren't just thieves. They were betrayers. And my family had believed them. I didn't call the police. Not yet. Instead, I printed everything. Teller slips. Transaction records. Still shots of Hannah and Mark at the counters. I slid them into a black presentation folder, the same kind I used for courtroom briefings. My hands moved automatically, muscle memory from years of preparing evidence. By Monday afternoon, I was driving back to the house. The golden November light made everything look falsely warm, like a painting hung in a place you didn't live anymore. Cars crowded the driveway. Dad's truck, Mark's SUV, Hannah's compact, Mom's old sedan. The kitchen smelled like rosemary again when I walked in. They froze. Without a word, I set the folder on the counter. You believed I stole from Mom, I said softly. Let me show you what really happened. I laid out the stills one by one. Hannah in sunglasses. Mark signing paperwork. Dates, amounts, teller signatures. Mom's hand shook as she picked them up. But the bank said. They thought it was online, I interrupted. It wasn't. And the online login afterward? That came from your Wi-Fi. The recovery email was tied to Mark's phone. Hannah's mug clattered against the counter. You went through our stuff. I tilted my head. No, you went through Mom's. Mom collapsed into a chair, clutching the folder. You'd let me think my daughter stole from me? My throat burned. You told me not to come back. And you never even asked if I did it. Hannah's eyes filled with tears, but her voice was sharp. You always get everything. The job. The respect. I just wanted things to be fair. You didn't make it fair, I said. You burned everything. Mark's voice was calm, almost bored. She'll be fine, Mom. Caroline makes more than all of us. It wasn't personal. I stared at him. It's always personal when it's family. Dad finally turned from the stove. Caroline, what are you going to do? I held his gaze. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like a child. I'm not pressing charges. But I gave the file to the attorney. You'll decide what happens next. I zipped the folder closed. You told me not to come back without the money, I said. I didn't take it. But I brought the truth. I walked toward the door. Caroline, Mom whispered, her voice breaking. I paused at the threshold. Thanksgiving's over. You made sure of that. And then I left. I sat in my car outside the house for nearly an hour. The kitchen window glowed, but no one came after me. Back in Boston, life swallowed me whole. I buried myself in audits and investigations. The kind where numbers were cold and didn't bleed. I stopped calling on Sundays. Stopped answering the family group chat. 2 weeks later, Mom left a voicemail. Her voice was cracked. Caroline, we were wrong. I know that now. I'm sorry. I don't expect forgiveness. The house feels empty. A week later, a letter arrived. Inside was a photo, me, Hannah, and Mark as kids on the back porch, dressed in makeshift Halloween costumes. On the back, Mom had written, "We didn't know how much we'd miss you until you were gone." Hannah and Mark moved out. Mom cut them off. But I didn't go back. There's a kind of grief people don't talk about. Not the grief of death, but the grief of realizing the living chose a lie about you over the truth. I kept the folder. It lives in a drawer under tax returns and expired passports. I haven't opened it since. I don't need to. Instead, I built something new. A weekend seminar at the community college, protecting seniors from financial abuse. One Saturday, a woman hugged me and said, "I wish I had a daughter like you." I smiled politely. Didn't say what I was thinking. So did mine. Sometimes, I still make that butternut squash casserole. The scent of nutmeg and maple syrup fills my kitchen bittersweet. But I don't bring it home. Not anymore.